In every hotel, there are two groups of people: the ones operating the hotel and the travelers who are visiting. When these two groups interact, every interaction should be an enjoyable and memorable experience. But from the moment a traveler starts planning their trip, if you don't have the right insights and tools to know what attracts their attention or how to deliver on their expectations,
Welcome.
you can easily fall behind. That's where we come in. We discover together what you need to get ahead. Then we give you the capabilities to jump ahead, so you can start anticipating what's needed for your teams to stay ahead, no matter your size or scale. At Amadeus, we amplify your ability to drive profitable demand and help your teams be more efficient, so they can elevate every guest experience. With us, you'll know where the future of hospitality is going, because we're the ones shaping it.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Mastering Direct Bookings, Strategies to Increase Hotel Revenue. I'm joined today by my colleague, Chris Zindash. Chris, welcome. Thank you for taking time today. I think it's important to note, you're my colleague at Amadeus, but you're a certified hotel administrator and you have extensive management and hotel on-property experience. So your insights into the complexities of hotel operations are crucial for today.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me, Sheri.
Great. So let's dig in. Today, we're going to do a brief overview of market and booking source analysis. Then we're going to dive right into direct bookings, how important they are, the challenges and expectations of today's customers buying on online booking sources, and then really digging into the importance of direct bookings and how they can influence your bottom line. So let's get started. This is an overview of the market in the United States. The great news is about Amadeus is we are a data company as well as a central reservation and hotel application company. So for us to step back and take a look at this chart, it's really key to understand that Amadeus has the ability to pull data from and aggregate it from a variety of different sources. It's business intelligence from it's forward-looking competitive rates, rate data, market data, keyword analytics, all wrapped up in our Demand 360 tool. And we believe by helping our customers gain an edge by maximizing direct bookings and reducing their OTA reliance, the website is really the place to start. So Chris, tell me what your thoughts about this chart and the brand.com contribution and direct bookings.
Absolutely. And thanks again, Sheri, for having me. You know, after being a hotelier for 25 years in sales and marketing and being a general manager and my last 7 years here with Amadeus, it's really critical to get inside the mind of the hotelier and understand how they have to run their business. And if there's anything we've learned, not only in these last few years since COVID, but every time we go through these economic cycles, it's so very important for the hotel to run as efficiently as possible. And they've got so many different things coming at them, different, business channels, as we're going to talk about, but they also have expenses and they have to run their hotels in a smart way. Every hotelier knows that they want to gain as many direct bookings as they can because the cost of acquisition of those reservations is so much more reasonable than, channels that they have to pay large commissions to or heavy fees. So when we think about the direct and brand.com, those are typically the two at Amadeus where we're hyper focused to make sure that the hotels are getting their fair share and more. So love seeing those numbers both north of 30% for the US. And of course, we can always take a look at a hotelier's particular market if that's something that they're interested in.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's positive. It's a positive upward trend post-COVID. So great. Well, now let's kind of settle in on the direct bookings and the challenges and expectations of today's traveling public. I think post-COVID, the whole guest dynamic has really changed quite a bit. You have a digital experience that's evolving very rapidly, but you also have guests that have higher and higher expectations about how they're booking online, what data they're receiving from a site that they want to engage with and interact with. But it's also the competition. How many different sites are they going to solicit some of the details that they need in order to make a booking? From a hotel perspective, The desire really is clear. They need tools that are integrated, user-friendly, and ultimately driving the guest to book direct as quickly and efficiently as possible. Any thoughts on these dynamics from a hotelier perspective?
Well, you've hit it all on the head, Sheri. I mean, when it comes to the hoteliers, you know, today's business moves fast, and hospitality, it moves 100 times as fast. It's a 24-hour business. They've got so many complexities to think about, and having the technology working, as smoothly and as efficiently as possible is key, because they are receiving bookings and they're getting attention from so many different sources. So, however we can continue to line up those guest expectations and those hotel dynamics and get them in sync. That's our goal, is to make sure we do that so they can have a lot of successful bookings and do what we call conversion. We want to have the high conversion rate. Well, people have that when their technology is working well and seamless, and they can make those decisions a lot simpler than they do in other channels.
I agree. And I think it's also this idea of personalization, right? It's this traveling public that says, I want something unique. I want a unique experience. And how can a hotel effectively keep their stamp on their personalized brand, but also then slide some interesting things in that are unique to their location and have the preference being booked on their own booking engine?
Right. Well, and we live in a very branded world as it is, and 70% of the hotels are typically with a branded entity. And so even though they may be branded, people really do want that local feel. They want to go somewhere and feel the specialness. So, if you have something unique about your location where your hotel is, you're right, people want that. And further, you also want that from the customer. We want to know as much about Joe or Joan traveler coming to our hotel so that we can meet and exceed those expectations, which, as we know, especially since COVID, people's need for experiential travel has just really skyrocketed. So you're absolutely right. With personalization is a key these days.
Yeah. All right. So here's some of the things that we hear typically from our hotel customers is just these challenges, right? I want to boost and increase the revenue through my directbrand.com, my own website, right? It's where I own the guest. And I want to improve my visibility. How do I increase that conversion rate? It's also this idea of that guests want to have a special rate, right? They want to feel special and unique again. And how do they get a personalized offer or something that is unique to them? So I think these are some of the challenges that we hear very commonly from our customers. Anything to add to here?
Yeah, well, I looking at putting my hotelier hat on, many years of boosting revenue. I mean, owners and management companies, have very defined goals, and they want to make sure that their businesses are successful. And so anything we can do to boost revenue through those channels, and like we talked about earlier, use those channels that have, the lower acquisition costs, really is key. It really helps on the profitability of the business. When you talk about visibility, I mean, let's face it, we all know from the days of web searching that if you're on page 2, you're done for, you're in trouble. So utilizing the different digital media techniques and you're using your booking engine to help you gain that first page visibility. I mean, heck, first third of the page visibility.
That's right.
We know that the average consumer, I believe, what was it, a couple of years ago, has about a 7-second attention span on a web page. And so if we can get them to stay for 10 seconds, that's considered pretty successful. It may be even less than 7. The newer generations can move much quicker than I do between those pages. So that personalized part is key, because if people are like, ooh, they're speaking to me, I'm going to be more driven to click and learn more. So I think you're right on the mark here.
All right, now we're going to dive into the importance of direct bookings. So it's key to understand that 6 out of 10 bookings are made online today. And whether that's a mobile device or actually somebody logging in on a laptop, it's this idea of how are you converting and getting you the best offer through those channels in order to convert. We hear from hoteliers, again, this idea of personalization. How is personalization going to help push that direct booking over the line? How is it going to entice that traveler to pick that booking source? so they're not going to an OTA. And really, we want to help keep on pushing this idea of direct bookings are your bookings as a hotelier. They're not owned by an OTA. Do you have thoughts on this?
Well, you know, you said something interesting, Sheri, because in my many years of working in the hotels directly, you know, we understand that the online travel agencies, the OTAs, this is a part of what hotels do. It's a part of our business. We understand that. But hotels need to ensure that they're creating a strategy that is including that, not solely leaning on that. And I think that's where a lot of hoteliers get themselves into trouble when they're just solely leaning on those OTA bookings because of that cost of acquisition we keep talking about. But seeing that 6 out of 10 bookings are happening online, that means we don't have the opportunity with that personal interaction to engage the customer, ask those discovery questions to personalize their stay. So we've got to be able to do that with our technology. And focusing on those direct booking channels is huge because the OTAs do a pretty fair job of marketing to online customers. So it's an investment and it's a strategy that hotels need to be very serious about taking on and creating a good plan for. So they're in charge of their customer, if you will.
Yes, and it's a really good time as all these hotels right now are in budget season for 2025. So planning and having to understand and carve out that budget is super important, and investment in your own hotel strategy.
Very true.
All right, let's pause here and talk about revenue control. So we've talked about this need for what they call the billboard effect, right? Essentially, a hotel has to be on the OTAs because it becomes a comparative channel for a guest who's looking at the different options of how to book your property, right? But it's how do we minimize the dependency? We have to be on it. It's a necessary channel. We understand, but we want to minimize because it's where you actually have a higher cost of acquisition. So we get that, but how do we help hotels actually have a more compelling offer via their own booking engine? What do we do? How do we get there?
Well, absolutely. And like we're saying, it's a chemistry set. We're always trying to figure out what that mix is. I remember hearing that years ago, back when we called it yield management. 101 of mixing that business was you're going to need certain things. You're going to need lower rated business. You're going to need higher rated business. Yeah. People are going to stay longer. They're going to stay shorter. But really finding that mix. But I think really what's more critical, Sheri, is that people just continue to remain objective and open about reviewing that and making sure that still makes sense for a hotel. You may be in a market or in a location where it makes sense for you to lean on certain channels. And so you need to do that for whatever constraints or supply and demand issues are affecting that hotel. But in the long run, we know through the study, through the data, that the direct bookings really are the way to go. The customer is making their relationship directly with the hotel or the venue, and you have their information and you're able to market to them directly and make sure that they're optimizing their experiences with you. So you're right on it with managing that revenue and optimizing that business mix.
Thank you. All right. Well, you've touched upon something that's interesting, right? It's the visibility. So it's enhancing that presence. It's leveraging different mediums to influence. And as you've noted, to be above the fold on that first page in a search engine, right? Don't be below the fold. No. The eyes may not travel. You got to stay above. So how are you actually investing and contributing part of your budget for 2025 into increasing that search, right? Are you investing into getting that visibility above the fold? And then it is going to the next level, right? How am I actually getting creative? How am I showcasing the unique value proposition? Is it a rate? Is it just a rate plus something? Is it a member rate? How maybe it's a geo-targeted promotion that I'm actually fencing off a rate and just exposing that rate to a certain subset within a geo-target. Those are all different ways that we can actually increase that visibility and have some creative solutions, again, to drive that direct booking.
Right. Well, and Sheri, all the different channels that we're talking about, the different segments, the different channels that reservations and bookings come into a hotel, they all have their ways of creating visibility, and obviously they want to create it so that people will continue to use that channel over and over again. But it is huge today. I mean, we're in it, like I said earlier, we're in a sea of brands. There's, last count, there's like 168 different brands amongst sub brands amongst the major brands in the hospitality industry. So, you're trying to figure out the differences between the different, brands. So you've already got a lot of noise out there for the traveler to try to understand and work through those things. So, utilizing things such as website and the visual components of the hotel, video, implementing video in your booking engine so that people can get a scan of the room and not just see a picture. There's lots of different things that you can do to create that value. And at the end of the day, the customer wants to feel like they're standing in the room next to you. You really, we talk about, how do you create that virtual tour, when you can't have the guest or the meeting planner standing shoulder to shoulder with you in the room. So you really have to recreate that experience, because that's what the travelers are looking for.
I agree. I think it's also interesting. This is where I think an independent property can really shine. They can show their unique proposition and what it is, and they can actually shine in a sea of let's say, a franchised property.
Right.
in their market.
And you're right. I mean, and when I say the brands, it's not just the major hotel brands, but there's, 40% of the market or so, or 30 to 40% is independent branded hotels. Well, their strategy and their work is just as important, and they don't have thousands of other hotels. They may have just one or two or a few. And so they have to create that image. They have to create that feel. And it's
That's right.
It's huge. Especially, remember, we got 7 seconds. We got 7 seconds of somebody's attention to get them engaged. So we have to make that all 7 seconds count.
7 seconds above the fold.
Yes.
That's right. There you go. All right. So let's then kind of touch base on this idea of the seamless booking experience, right? So 77% of travelers say that they're going to use an online booking experience, which is really important to them for, spending their holiday or their hard-earned vacation money. And I think this idea is interesting. Is at Amadeus, I'm thrilled because we have some interesting tools to help those travelers that are actually going out and shopping. We have this tool, cart abandonment, which I think is the greatest thing ever, right? It's this idea that you are allowing your guest who may not be ready to make a decision, or maybe they need to go back and they need to consult someone within their family. Again, for this, they're going to spend their vacation. This is their hard-earned money, their hard-earned time and money, right? But they want to maybe say, I'm not ready to book, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you my email. At Amadeus, within our iHotelier platform, we can pull that email. Then you, as a hotelier, can go back and retarget and resend the offer to that guest who has already been onto your booking engine and they've engaged, which on average, our hotels are like yielding $11,000 per month for those using our cart abandonment, which is amazing. So I don't know if you have any ideas here, but it's really this idea of having a booking engine that allows you to capture the guest's interest, to curate a stay, and then obviously to convert that booking online.
Well, like we were just talking about the last few slides, Sheri, it's all about that experiential travel. And they want an online booking experience because the thing that probably becomes most scary or fearful for travelers is all the parts and pieces that need to be cobbled together for the travel experience. So if they're using a technology tool that helps them feel more comfortable with that and knows that it's seamless and covers those areas, it makes it even better for them, especially when we're talking about holiday bookings, because we're talking about leisure travel. We're talking about hard-earned money. And let me tell you, if I had a nickel for every time over the last couple of decades when I worked in hotels, when somebody came to the desk to discuss an aspect of their stay and they wanted to remind me that this was a very big vacation and that they did spend that very hard-earned money. So I think the great part about the hotel industry is we feel that we know as a destination, it's important for us to embrace that for our travelers that are coming in. but it is so very important to have that experience. And you've talked about, using a cart abandonment tool and using different things to make that stay personalized, or let them know, hey, Chris, we don't want you to leave now. You were shopping around and you picked a really nice room. Let's put that on hold for you. It just makes it feel so much more personalized. And experiential travel, that's what people want these days. So that they're looking for that. And if they don't see it where they're looking at a hotel, then they're going to go find it somewhere else.
All right, Chris, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, because this is upselling opportunities. And this is where I think independent hotels can truly shine. So let's think about all the creative ways that an independent hotel can take the uniqueness of their destination, of where they sit in a city, and really focus on offering some great experience or some added plus to the stay for the guest. And that could be from an activity, like if I'm in New Orleans and I'm sitting next to the cemeteries and I want to add a cemetery tour, or if I'm going on a leisure-based vacation and I'm actually wanting to include trip insurance for safety. These are all things that can be put into the booking path. So tell me, what do you think about upselling opportunities for independent hotels?
Well, this has been an age-old question, Sheri, in the hotel business. Anything that you can do to enhance the experience of the traveler at your hotel just makes it better and better with their experience. And since we're talking about experiential travel, and this is the world that we're moving into, it's just so very important. And even every location has some unique offering. Even if you're in a suburban business district, you have a unique offering. Even if you're in a remote area, there's something that you can offer to your customers, and it gives you an opportunity to add that additional revenue to your hotel. And especially at a time when we're talking about what are hotels going to do to generate revenue as our economy is flattening, we need to think about how do we, get creative and do things differently. So using a booking engine and a CRM tool that allows you to do this and drive those revenues just makes perfect sense to a hotelier.
Agree. And it could be just monetizing early check-in, late checkout, or even just parking and adding that to the booking flow. So these are all pieces where an independent hotel really can shine with what they can offer their guests. Next, it's this idea of creating a stronger customer relationship. So this direct booking, right, we've noted, it's where you as a hotelier own that guest. You're not sharing it with the OTA because you're owning them directly. So now it's this idea of, well, now what? Is there a way to keep them loyal to you in the absence of a true loyalty experience? Or are you going to give them something by them giving you something? So it's this idea, right, of if I'm going to give you my email, what are you going to give me? Right? Because I think it's transactional in that example, because people are expecting something. I'm expecting something if I'm going to give you my email. My email is precious, so right, I am expecting something in return.
Wow.
We have found that there's a variety of ways that our hotels have done really interesting things with having either like a promotion to buy back, come back on a Black Friday event. And we had all of our hotels down in Nashville that did a great study on this, where they used our tools to have a Black Friday sale, and they garnered something like 200 bookings that they didn't have before by doing that sale for a small group of unique branded boutique properties. So it's this idea where you can actually then get some reservations on the books that you didn't have, get them locked in, and then you can create a stronger relationship so they're coming back to you the next time they go back to Nashville.
Absolutely. Well, and you were talking earlier about cart abandonment. When you're using our guest management solutions in conjunction with iHotelier, you also have this, you have access to a very robust CRM, which now you can really start to track your customers. And, we've been talking about it all along with the technological enhancements and the way you weave that together with the guest journey. With the CRM, what you're doing is you're gathering even more algorithms about the customer. You ask them a few questions. It shows interest in what they like and what they don't like. You can track what kind of experience they had. Maybe last time they had a little problem with their air conditioning, or you found out that they were traveling with small children and they had some different requests for the room. So you start to really anticipate the needs of the customers just by simply using the information that you have. The challenge over the last several decades in lodging has, we've used to do that the old-fashioned way. You know, they had the infamous black book at the front desk of the hotel where they would write down, Mr. Jones always likes to stay in room 123 and likes this and this and this in his room. Well, when we have, you know, hundreds of thousands of guests coming through our doors every year, we need to use the technology to our advantage to do that. And once we do, that customer really resonates with that. They feel like, you really know me. And yes, we know them because we remember what they tell us so that we can review it, so that we can do a better job and make sure that we continue to exceed those expectations. When customers feel like they can come back somewhere and they have a great experience, that's when you really are, you're really making ground, because then, as you're saying, you're using those tools to get them to come back, plan your next trip. You know, you loved it here on Black Friday. Boy, you should see it in springtime. You know, so now you're really starting to get that flow of that customer. So anything to deepen that relationship. And remember, they all talk to each other. So the customer that stays with you goes to the family reunion and tells the family about the great experience they had in Nashville or New Orleans or Washington. So we're just growing this cult of people that really have a positive experience about your hotel, and they want to tell people about it.
That's right. You always think about, they tell one person, they tell another, and then they tell another.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
And they do talk more when they have positive experience. They may share negative experiences, but they do talk about their positive experiences. And it's just a huge, huge marketing opportunity that is zero cost except kindness.
Thank you. That's a true certified hotel administrator line right there. All right. So it's this idea of meeting the guests where they are, right? So we really want to make sure at Amadeus that we understand and have the tools to help our hoteliers at all stages of the guest journey, right? From inspiration to planning to obviously the booking, and then the on-site experience, and then the post-trip stage. So if you look at that booking stage, and we talked a little bit about this idea of staying above the fold, staying on the first page of the search, it's this idea of meta search and where meta search plays into that booking stage. Do you have any thoughts on meta search and your experience with your own customers?
Oh, good.
Using Meta?
Yeah, well, I started using it a little bit more when I was still in the hotels, but over the last 6.5, 7 years since I've been with Amadeus, partnering with hotels that are doing just the things that we're talking about. They're an independent hotel living in a branded world, and they're trying to create that unique experience. They're learning how to fight, if you will, single-handedly when wholesale and OTAs and all kinds of other channels are nipping at their heels to try to get their customer. And the beauty of meta search is that you're working with a search tool like Google, where or Kayak or TripAdvisor, where you're working with them to say, look, I'm going to, pay you a commission to return this guest to me. Help this guest search and find me in my organic channels, whether it's my website or my booking engine versus a third party. And as a thank you, you give them the commission. Now, we did talk about cost of acquisition, but hear me out. The important part here is that customer is back in your database again. Right. It's not travel agent or online travel agency X, and that customer is always communicating through that intermediary, and you really don't have that relationship. So I've seen some hotels really have significant increases in their booking presence by using this meta search channel.
And I think it's also this idea of, you don't want to lose them to an OTA, but you also don't want to lose them to your competitors. What about the hotel next door to you? If you're not competing and having that visibility, then you're potentially losing them. to either.
And it's taking all these things, like you're saying, all these different things we're talking about and using them together. It's not just a chemistry set
That's
to
right.
figure out business mix. It's a chemistry set to put together your plan of how you approach your market, your customers, to get the right mix of customers into your hotel. So you're spot on.
Yeah, thank you. And again, here's just some visual representation of how the meta search performs and how, again, we talked about this idea of it looking, appearing within the top search results. So your hotel property is going to look and appear first, and then actually being able to convert from that and having that that visibility that you need so that you aren't losing to a competitor on either side, to an OTA
Right.
or to the next door neighbor.
Right. Just continuing to bolster and enhance that organic direct booking experience. And we saw this really happen during COVID, and we saw customers, they went from being a very automated travel experience to, we had a situation where there were a lot of other health and safety concerns. And so you saw human travelers wanting to then talk to human beings again and want to be more connected directly with their destination, whether it was their airline, their hotel, a restaurant, you name it. So it just plays to what we're talking about and says that this is what the customers really, they're really looking for. And when they know they're getting the real deal straight from their direct provider, that's creating that relationship. So like you're saying, all these things that we're doing to bolster that relationship, they know that they're getting great value. Their rates are always best coming from their hotel entity. And that, as you show, we can then show them offers and say, hey, you stayed here 3 or 4 times, and thank you for that. And by the way, we'd like to do a little something for you. It just screams personalization, and the traveler loves that these days.
That's right. Agree. Well, I appreciate your time today. And we're just going to wrap up that we do have the ability to have a white paper on mastering the direct bookings. Anybody can scan that QR code, download it directly, and we're happy to send that out. Any last words? Any last thoughts? Again, I appreciate your great analogy on the chemistry. That was a good one.
Oh, thank you, Sheri. Well, a few years in this business, you a few things stick, and that is, the customers are always going to tell you what they want, and if you're not giving that to them, they're going to go find it somewhere else. And just to be able to talk about, a lot of these things that we do at Amadeus, I've been using for years in my hotel experiences, but it's just so important to always be objective, always be looking at your business from a holistic view and making sure that you're getting the right channels coming into your hotel, and direct bookings is the easiest way to do it. Keeps the customer top of mind. They have a great relationship with you, and it's brought me to where I am today, and I just keep evangelizing it as much as I can through the colleagues and the customers I work with. So thanks for letting me share my insights with you.
Well, we're grateful for your expertise and grateful for